Hello all, this is Chris Garciadis with Aqua Agitators, and today I'm happy to host one of my good friends worldwide, Marcos. Marcos, how are you? Greetings from Amsterdam.
Hi, Christos. Thank you for having me. A big pleasure to be here with you, and greetings from the opposite end of the world in Ireland, United States.
Hope your weather is better than ours here in the Netherlands. For those people that don't know you yet, do you mind giving a quick intro?
Absolutely. My name is Marcos de la Monja, 15 years career in the water wastewater sector.
Hmm.
We're right now working in a as an operating officer at a water design, build, and operate water and wastewater treatment systems, where we try to foster zero liquid discharge for our clients.
Being 15 years already in the water industry, how complex do you think is usually problem of dealing with wastewater?
That's a great question. I think what people outside of the industry don't realize, and this is for the most part our clients who are not in the water or wastewater industry, any industry, put an example, a dairy manufacturer. Everybody thinks that um, cleaning wastewater is a one size fits all, and bringing this mindset that every single wastewater that changes between industries and sometimes between locations, that is the most complex thing. So I'll give you an example. We deal with wastewater from dairy farms that has high solids, high organics, and it requires a specific set of processes in order to treat that water so that it can be reused back in some other processes within the facility. And then we also treat, on the opposite end, you have leachate water, and that has high amounts of other organics and also heavy metals and all the rage right now, those forever chemicals that seem to be percolating all over the industry. So you got to get creative. You have to be able to persuade and speak up, be a good communicator when it comes to telling your clients, you know what, one size does not fit all, and every single water requires specific attention and specific sets of technologies put in place so that it can be clean, either to be discharged to the environment or back into your processes.
So essentially, you need a variety tool set, yeah, and the necessary creativity to connect the points in order to deal with all these issues. And having set that aside, where does innovation come in all of that?
Right now, with the explosion of, I mean, the way that we communicate, the way we receive news,
Hmm.
this the water industry is incredibly fragmented. While it's very small, it's very fragmented. So it's not hard to get information from or see where innovation is happening, but it's so fragmented, we need to kind of, as an industry, be able to communicate better on achievements, what works and what doesn't work. But what I've seen is just everything from physical instruments that monitor in real time contaminants that can alert then a system downstream that to adjust certain parameters and to be able to comply with the regulations in the discharge, all the way to artificial intelligence that is currently learning patterns that allow then for easier modeling. And what I tell my clients is, by leveraging AI, you can stay ahead of the curve, knowing that a pump may break in 2 weeks. You can proactively go and maintain that pump, and it won't give you issues in a week time that will probably stop your operation. Because nobody, basically, what happens with wastewater, it's confined to the opposite end of the facility, back and tucked into a corner, built when the facility, whatever industry was built 50 years ago.
Hmm.
They continue to use the same technologies that they used 50 years ago, and everything has received upgrades in the original facility except the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep.
So clients usually come and say, well, my system is not working. Yes, well, it's also 50 years old. Everything has upgraded inside except your wastewater treatment plant. Nobody kind of understands that your first product that you produce is wastewater. The
Yep.
second one, maybe cheese or ice cream or a pair of Levi jeans. You know,
Yeah.
that's your second product. Your first one is always wastewater. Everywhere you go.
We spoke a lot about communication outside of the company with clients. What about the communication inside the company, and moreover about this tool sets, mindset, and innovation?
Yes, well, as an operating officer, I'm really involved, hands-on everything that goes around in the company. So what I try to do is foster this culture of innovation where everybody inside of the company, and for the most part outside as well, feels that they can ask questions, ask why this works, why this doesn't work, or bring ideas to the table, kind of bring everybody together and share experiences. Because an important thing about this is, and you and I discussed this in the past, is bringing the generalist mindset into the water industry.
Mhm.
Bringing those people in allows for a culture of innovation because let's say that I bring a software developer that has worked at Google. And if I bring them in to help me with something specific, he brings a different set of tools and a mindset that people in the water industry do not have. So it's by bringing people, internal stakeholders, bringing in people even from the sales department to the operations department or finance, getting them all together to figure out what the best way to push out better products for our clients. And it's all about communication at the end of the day.
And where's the role of leadership in all of that?
I think as a leader, you have to foster, like, go back to the same word, but you got to foster. Everybody needs to feel welcomed. Everybody needs to feel like no answer and no question is out of line. You know, when you let people be inquisitive and ask questions about why this works, why this processes are set this way, it allows others to start asking more questions. I'll give you an example. Every time we finish a wastewater treatment plant and we build it, we commission it, and then we pass it on to the client, every single time I bring in my whole operations department from a guy that was gluing PVC to the foreman in the plant. We all sit together for one full day in a big venue. Maybe sometimes it's as little as 6 people, and sometimes it's as much as 25 people or 30. We all sit down together and we all brainstorm what went well, what went okay, and what went bad. And everybody's encouraged to talk. Everybody has the same amount of time. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong. We need to get all of the ideas into the table so that we can address then, all right, this is the way this foreman thinks about tackling this problem. Well, I wasn't thinking about that. I've learned so much by having just different mindsets come in and chat.
How scalable do you think this format of communication is when you get into bigger corporations?
With what we're doing right now, you're sitting in Amsterdam and I'm sitting in Rhode Island. Like, there is no excuse to not be doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's After the pandemic, everybody went remote, and what happened to productivity? It skyrocketed because all of a sudden we don't need to be sitting in an office in order to be productive. Yeah, sometimes you do. If you're a doctor, you have to be in your office. But when you're dealing with things like this and you want to do communication, technology has given us access to unprecedented communication. I'm close to you right now, and we are several thousand kilometers away. You know?
What about communication with the rest of the water community?
Well, that's a broad question. I'll start by probably thinking about the regulators,
Mm-hmm.
who for the most part are the most reluctant to change of anybody in the industry, people that set up the rules. You need to be able to persuade them, convince them that with new technologies, you are, what they probably say here sometimes is, there's a better mousetrap. There's a better way of doing this. Yes, it's been done for 70 years the exact same way, but have you thought about doing it this way? You're more resistant to change if you just change X or Y parameters. You need to make that community, the regulators, they need to feel like they are input is valued, but also you need to do a big job at educating them. They need to feel comfortable with new decisions. When talking to, let's say, customers, you need to help them understand that overall there's a financial gain in all of this, in reusing your water. That's probably the primary goal that they care about. But also, what I push hard is letting them know that we need to be reusing water. In this day and age, right now, in January 16, 2025, there are technologies out there for you to reuse your water. So you can't tell me there's no excuse for you to not be reusing a big chunk of your water, right? Sending out contaminated water down the drain or any sort of water down the drain right now, it's clearly unacceptable.
Showcase to the end users that they can achieve a serious risk mitigation by water reuse in their operations.
Again, communication. You need to understand as a water professional and probably in charge of designing, you need to understand two things. What is the water quality that is coming into the wastewater treatment plant that we said? And what is the water quality coming into the facility? If I understand, there's several types of water, right? Not everything has to be potable water. And I've made a big push here in residential communities to separate water, the water that it's in the toilet in the WC versus the water that you use to wash your hands. Water in the toilet right now, especially in communities like in Arizona, that is experiencing severe drought in Los Angeles right now. You can see all the fires. The water that's in the toilet, which is meant to not be touched by humans, that water quality does not need to be potable. And to this point, it is. So that's only to preface my point that's saying that even in the industry, there's different sets of water qualities that are needed throughout the facility. I understand that if a certain, you need certain characteristics for the water that goes into the boilers, but that is different from washing down equipment or the floors, you know? So clients, people usually that are not water professionals think that all water is created equal, and that's not necessarily the case, you know? So what I do is talk to my clients, basically do a water audit on their facility, understand where the water's coming in and what the water qualities are, and then help them decide the best course of action. You're gonna mitigate risk by telling them the water, non-contact water that you use to wash your floors doesn't need to be that clean. So the water that I'm putting out from the wastewater treatment plant can be used there. And at the end, it all goes back to communication, being an effective communicator.
And now coming back to a previous point of our conversation about effective communication, and who do you think should be doing it inside the company? Who has a good mindset to do it? What type of people would be able to convey the message?
That's a good question. Pretty much anybody that is involved in the water quality. In my I'll speak for myself. Clearly, not everybody, but people that understand water, contaminants, treatment technologies. I guess it depends on who you're talking to. Am I going to speak to a technical person? You need specific set of skills. If you're going to talk to a client, you need more like a salesman kind of mentality. Regulators, highly technical.
You need to change a lot of hats, right? And you
Yes,
need people
exactly.
that have these kind of skills in order to use this kind of hats. And we go back to the conversation of specialist versus generalist, right? And how the generalist essentially mindset and skill sets can multiply the efforts of the specialists and convey their message outside the immediate professional bubble.
Absolutely. A specialist, while it's great, it's fantastic to have, sometimes may suffer from horse blinders and just be hyper focused on what they're great at. Yeah, you're totally right. A generalist is somebody that sits right above, that lacks maybe highly technical knowledge on the subject, but is able to condense that information and translate it to different people at different levels of technicality, so everybody feels welcome. Every stakeholder feels informed.
how do you think these generalists could integrate into the higher echelons of management? Would that be a benefit to the management?
Absolutely. I would consider myself a generalist. I am not an engineer by education. I have become one by training and being in the industry, but I started a business degree. When I started working, I was nothing what I'm doing right now. I was doing project accounting. You need that mentality. You need to be able to be versatile and be on your feet,
Mm-hmm.
be able to think on your feet quickly, and be able to, at the end of the day, is building relationships with people. People feel comfortable with you, but you're also able to dive into very technical issues and be able to translate that. Nobody does it better than a generalist. A generalist kind of understands different mindsets from different stakeholders and is able to gather information from here, here, and here and feed it as they see appropriate with different levels of depth in their communication. Incredibly necessary to have.
If I ask you, what skill sets do you consider more important to import to the water industry? Can you name me a couple of those? For example, do you think that we have lessons to learn, for example, from the energy industry?
Yes, we're trying to solve the most pressing challenge there is right now, which is the water crisis that the whole world is facing. Even more so than climate. Without water, there is no climate. Put that there.
Mm-hmm.
What can we learn? We can learn from everybody. We can learn from the software industry to be more agile. We can learn from the energy industry on how to scale.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we need to bring everybody on board. We need to bring more people from the outside into the water industry because we need bold ideas to solve this incredibly bold issue that we are experiencing right now. 4 billion people in the world don't have access to reliable fresh water. 4 billion.
Yep.
That's last time I saw, that's almost half of the world. And that's according to the UN, by the way. Almost half of the world do not have access. You and I live in the first world, in the developed West. I have never not opened my tap and seen clean water. For us, it's different. Imagine for us that we're in the water industry, we don't even think about that. Imagine somebody that's in a completely different industry. They're not used to this, but that's not the reality for the other half of the world. And one day, very soon, and we're starting to see it in the developed West, especially the western part of the United States, where sometimes there's not going to be water in your tap, and that's happening in Arizona. That
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's happening also with some hydrants down in the south. Yeah.
Yeah, that is different. They didn't have enough pressure. Not that didn't have enough water. The pressure, the system in LA, I think, was built for like the 1950s, and we're dealing with 2025 weather events. So kind of understandable, but they need to prepare better.
In any case, we definitely need more water and we definitely need more generalists coming in and solving critical issues in the industry. But as a last question, what would be a good advice that you would personally give to new people in the industry?
This is what I tell everybody when we hire subcontractors, when I talk to young people leaving university and trying to figure out what their next move is, whether in climate or in water. You need to have passion, because if you're not passionate about solving this incredibly huge problem that we have, whether that is climate or water, then there's no point in you joining. If you want to come here and make a quick buck, that's probably not going to happen. You need to have passion. I cannot show you how to have passion, but I can show you how to look for new technologies, how to integrate them into systems, how to put technology A, B, and C to get the result that the client wants. I can show you all of that. And I don't mind spending time showing you that. But if you don't have the drive and the passion and this fire inside to solve this issue, then there's nothing that I can do to help you. So my only advice is, if you're going to join this industry,
Mm-hmm.
have nothing but a deep set passion to solve this critical issue. That's it.
I think it's a very sound advice. Well, thank you very much for time out of your agenda to speak to us. It's much appreciated, given how busy you usually are. We stay in touch and we see how we can solve the problems of the industry, I guess.
All of them, one step at a time. Christos, thank you for having me. What a great time.